Hello and welcome to the first tutorial, video tutorial for Adobe Premiere Pro. And in this tutorial we're going to be looking at how to set up a project in Premiere, and also we're going to take a look at the interface and get a bit familiar with how all the various features fit together to make this very cool video editing tool that we're going to be working with this term. So when you start off a project in Adobe Premiere Pro, the thing that's very, very important is that all of your assets, so that's your videos, your images, music, soundtrack, everything like that, all of those assets need to be housed in the same place. And this allows Premiere to make sure that it has everything in one place so that it can find all of the various components when it needs to as you're assembling your video. So the very first and most important step when you're first starting out is to create a project folder. And that project folder is going to contain all of your assets, like I said, those images and music, videos, that sort of thing. So as you can see here, I've created a folder on my desktop called My Slideshow. And for purposes of this exercise, we'll be calling this just a video slideshow. And you can see inside of this folder I've got some JPEG images, and I've got an MP3 audio music file. And these are the assets and the things that I'm going to be bringing together into my project to create my video. And so the very first step that you want to take is to create a project folder on your desktop. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and open up Adobe Premiere Pro. And when you first open up the tool, it'll take a few seconds to load, and then you're actually going to see a window that looks just like this. And you have a few options here. You have New Project, Open Project, and Help. Now, in this case, this is a brand new project that we're doing. So I'm going to click on the New Project button. And this brings up a second window that gives you a few different options here. Some of these we need to worry about, other ones we don't need to worry about right at this moment. You see here what's very important about this area is this location. And whenever you open up a new project in Premiere, it always defaults to this location, which is a documents folder sort of located inside of another folder, not necessarily where we want our project to be housed. As I mentioned before, we've created a folder on our desktop, and that folder is where all of our project files are going to be. So the very first thing you want to do here then is click on the Browse button. And when you click the Browse button, you're just going to navigate to wherever you've created that folder that contains your project, so the My Slideshow folder. And you click on that folder, just click it once, and then click on the Choose button. And now I have pointed Premiere to my project folder so that it knows this is where all of my stuff is going to be kept. The second thing you want to worry about here is this name. Now, I will always tell you that untitled is not a name. Naming things and keeping your files organized is very, very important, especially when you're editing and working with video. So the other thing that you want to make sure you do here is that you give your project a name. So we're going to just call this My Slideshow, show video. And then we're not going to worry about this stuff here. The default settings are just fine for what we're doing today, so you don't need to worry about that. So as long as you've got the location selected and the name, then you click on the OK button. And what's going to happen is, first of all, is look in behind here, and you'll see that it's now created a project folder. It's created another folder inside of my project. So all of this stuff is contained inside of that folder. So now we have what are called the sequence settings. And again, at this point, we're probably just going to stick with the default settings because that's going to be just fine for the project that we're doing. But we do want to make sure that that this here, where it says sequence name, that we've given this a name as well. So we're going to call this flower sequence. And then we're going to click the OK button. And now it's just going to take a second here, and Premiere will load up, and you'll see a whole bunch of different windows open on your screen. So let's just take a little bit of a tour of what we're actually looking at here. Okay, so up here in the top left-hand corner, we've got our project window. And our project window is where all of our assets are going to display once we've imported them. So our images and our music and our video. And this is sort of like a bin or a holding place where all of that material is going to sit so that it's ready for us when we want to actually use it. Here in the center area is our source window. So our source window is basically, you can think of it like a preview where you're going to dump clips in and you're going to be able to take a look at them, change some things about them before you put them into your final timeline. And we'll get to the timeline in a second. This here is your program window. This is your final output. This is actually what you're going to see when you look at the work that you've done. So when it's basically your playback of what your work in progress. Down here at the bottom, in this area here, this is where you're going to be spending a lot of time. This is your sequence window or your timeline. And the timeline has a bunch of different features on it. You see that you have a bunch of different video channels, you have some audio channels, and we're going to take a look at how you can start to place clips into this timeline and then play them back, and it will show you basically your video as you go. This area here allows you to, if you need to find clips to be imported, it gives you some information here about your specific clips. The next one here is effects, and we're going to be spending a lot of time in the effects palette as well. And then a history, which is basically a history of the steps that you've taken in the program thus far. So this is your basic interface. We're going to be going a lot into doing things like adding titles and effects and music and bringing it all together. So this is the interface. In the next tutorial, we're going to actually look at importing some clips and putting them into the timeline.